In today's video, we try to answer the age-old question. Is TickTick better than Todoist? Or is Todoist better than TickTick? I made a recent video about the AI functionalities that are available right now in Todoist. And in order to look at the AI functionality, I had to sign up for a Todoist premium membership. And so I thought I would take advantage of having that premium membership of Todoist in order to really look at the differences or similarities between Todoist and TickTick. So in this video, I take a look at those differences and similarities between those two apps, mostly from their basic task management functionalities. Hello, I'm Josh LeBest. Alright, so I have both TickTick and Todoist open in my browser now. I want to take a look at the differences and the similarities between the two apps. Now they're both empty right now, so I don't have any tasks in TickTick, and if I flip over to Todoist, I don't have any tasks there. So I think I'm going to pull TickTick off over here to the right side, so that way I can look at them side by side. Okay, so now I have Todoist on the left side and TickTick on the right side. One of the things I notice right away is the similarities between them. Right, so I'm on the inbox in both apps, and they both have inboxes. Right below inbox is the Today view in TickTick, and right below the inbox is the Today view in Todoist. And right below the Today view is the next 7 days. And in Todoist it's called Upcoming, but I think it's pretty similar. It has to be pretty similar. Now below that in Todoist is a section called Filters and Labels. This is slightly different than TickTick, but just slightly, right? Because if I look over here in this navigation pane, I also have filters and tags within TickTick. And although it's not a separate section, it is kind of in the same spot here in the left navigation pane. And then below that, in Todoist is my projects, and in TickTick is lists. The only thing we haven't covered yet is search. So search is placed slightly different in the two apps. Search is in the main navigation menu in Todoist, whereas search is in this kind of a narrow far left navigation menu in TickTick. But it's funny to me how similar they are. And I guess that's why they get compared a lot, because they are so similar. Let's try creating a task and see the differences there. So I'm going to scoot this over just a little bit more. And you'll notice that when I do that, the left navigation pane collapses. Now if I make the TickTick a little bit smaller, the left navigation collapses. So even when we're making them smaller, they both behave similarly. So let's go ahead with TickTick and add a new task. So I'm going to make a task called Write the Report. Now with TickTick, this task box is kind of plain. I mean, it doesn't give me any options, although I do see a calendar over here on the far right side, which I can use to set a due date. And so I'm going to set that for Friday, December 8th. And then if I want to set anything else, I can hit this down arrow over here and I can set a priority, or I can add it to a specific list. All right, so those are kind of my options in TickTick. Now if I come over here to Todoist and do the same thing, add a task, right away I notice I get a few more options. Let's type our task in here again, write the report, and right from here I can add more description. And it's pretty clear that the due date is set here. It's letting me know that Todoist now has task duration, which is good. That's similar to TickTick. TickTick also has task durations. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and select the 8th again, Friday. And also from here I can see that I can easily select the priority that I want. Looking at the priorities, they're exactly the same, red, orange, blue, and none. I can set a reminder from here. It's letting me know that I could have done that instantly by putting an exclamation point. Let's see what these three dots do. So I can add labels and location. And so that is just a little bit of a slight difference over here on the TickTick side, right? We don't have any options to set the tag or the location. And just FYI, if you're not familiar, labels is what Todoist calls tags. Not sure why they didn't go with the more familiar term of tags. But they give me the option over here in Todoist to set a label. And so when I click this option, it comes up here to the task name and puts an @ symbol, which I guess is the shortcut to adding a label. And I don't have any labels in my Todoist system right now, but let's see if it prompts us to add it. So it does say label not found, create due later. And so right from here, I can create the label or the tag. Now over here on the TickTick side, we don't have that option, right? It doesn't give us any option to add a tag by default. Now I can if I know the secret shortcut, which I do, right? Which is the #. So if I know that, then I can add the tag directly and I can create the tag here in TickTick as well. So one of the things you might have noticed over here in TickTick, it lowercased all my letters, whereas in Todoist it's easier to see this is due later. Over here in TickTick, I might think this is later, which doesn't mean anything to me. So let's talk just a minute about one of the major differences or perceived differences between Todoist and TickTick. And that is that Todoist looks nicer. It's more user-friendly. And I would say just by doing this short exercise, I can agree with that already. One thing that I see that sticks out in TickTick is this narrow left navigation pane. So you can never get rid of this, and it's always there taking up screen real estate, and it doesn't really look the nicest in my opinion. Now I understand there's some use for it because it's how you get to some of the other functions within TickTick, like the Eisenhower matrix or the habit tracker and things like that. But certainly there might be another way or somewhere else to put those links if you're not using those types of things. The other thing that's here is this search. Maybe search belongs somewhere else. And for sure, I don't need to see these 3 icons down here all the time. To be honest, I never click on these. So they're just down here taking up screen real estate. And over here in Todoist, right, we don't see any of that. And it just makes the overall look of the app a lot cleaner, a lot nicer. Maybe crisper is a better word. And then when adding the tasks, you can tell that Todoist is just a little more user-friendly. Now, I'm a simple guy and I usually like simple things. So I actually don't mind the way TickTick has this box, more of a minimalistic style, and all we can see is the calendar and a down arrow. And a lot of times I'm not adding a priority or moving it to a folder when I'm adding the tasks, especially when I'm adding things to my inbox. A lot of times I'm just getting things out of my head as quickly as possible. And that way I think TickTick is better, but we can kind of see some of the user-friendliness, especially if you're new to the app, how user-friendly Todoist is, giving all the options right here, and it's pretty clear. And then finally the tag. I mean, I don't understand why TickTick would lowercase all of my letters. I don't know if there's a reason for that. Now, probably what I would do if I was going to add a do later tag in TickTick is I would use an underscore. But it would be nice if we could use capital letters as well. All right, so let's go ahead and add these tasks to our system here. In Todoist, we just hit this red save button. And in TickTick fashion, we don't have any button over here, so we just have to know that we need to hit the enter, which is pretty self-explanatory in my opinion. Now, if we look at the way the tasks look in the two systems, again, I think Todoist looks just a little bit nicer. I mean, I agree with that. It does look nicer. So let me add just a few more tasks to each system, and that way we can kind of get a feel for how the inbox would look if we had, several tasks in it. All right, so now we have several tasks in each system. I added the same tasks to both. And I just want to look at the options that we have within the list itself. So again, we're probably familiar with TickTick's options. Up here we have a group by and sort by options. And so we can group by, date, tag, priority, or custom. And same with sort, but also title is in there as well as an option. And we're also free to move these tasks around however we want to. So let's take a look at Todoist. I can move the tasks up and down, looks like. If I come over here, let's see the view options. So we have grouping. Looks like we have one additional option in the grouping in Todoist. We have date added. Let's take a look at the sorting options. And again, we have the date added in the sorting options in Todoist. So the other thing you'll notice is you can show completed tasks, and you can also look at this in a board or calendar view. Now over here in TickTick, you have to go over to the three dots, and then you can either show the completed tasks, or you can change the view to Kanban, which is the board view, or timeline view, which is kind of similar to calendar. Or we could also go to the real calendar view here by clicking over on the left side. So again, these are very similar apps. So let's take a look at some of these other things over here in Todoist. We have comments. So this is something different between the apps, right? It looks like I can add a comment directly to a list. So I can add a comment to the overall project in most cases. I wouldn't think you would use this in the inbox normally, but it looks like that you can. So let me just try it out. And down below, it looks like I can add an attachment. I can record audio, which is also something slightly different than we see in TickTick. We can insert an emoji and add an extension. All right, so let me go ahead and add this comment. And so now I have a comment within my inbox. And it looks like I have to go up to that comment section in order to see it, but that's okay. I have a bit of a workaround that I do in TickTick to kind of do something similar, but it would be nice if that option was there. And finally, let's take a look at the three dots on the Todoist side. So we can add a section. So the section looks very similar to TickTick. I'm just going to drag my write the report task down to that section. But the one thing you'll notice over here on TickTick, if I go to my three dots, I can't add a section to the inbox. Now, if this was a different list, then I could add a section. So speaking of other lists, let's go add a list to both apps and see what the differences are there. So I'm going to expand the left navigation menu on both apps. And in TickTick, they're called lists, and in Todoist, they're called projects. So in TickTick, let me just hit the plus button and add a list. And again, you're probably familiar with this if you use TickTick like I do. I'm going to give it a name. I always like to give it a little emoji to give it a little personality. We can give it a color here. We can choose a default view for the list. So our options are list view, Kanban, and timeline view. We could put the list in a folder if we wanted to, and we can choose what type of list it is, whether it's a task list or a note list. So I'm going to go ahead and add this new list. All right, so now we have a personal list. It's colored green, and it's just the regular list view. Let's go do that same thing in Todoist real quick. So it looks like I hit the plus button next to my projects. Again, very similar to TickTick. I can give it a name. Now, it looks like I can't add an emoji here, so what I might do is just right-click and use my emoji that way. I can choose a color. Did I choose it? Yeah, it's chosen. It doesn't really let me know which color I've chosen here, which is interesting. I can choose to add to favorites, and I can choose my view. So list view, board view, or calendar view. Looks very similar. I'm going to go ahead and add this. And so now I have a personal task list in both systems. So let me just add a few tasks to each of these projects. So I've copied and pasted a list of 5 tasks from ChatGPT. TickTick asks me if I want to batch add those tasks. So I can just click add and it will add all 5 tasks. Let's see what happens over here in Todoist. I hit Control V to paste and it does the same thing, right? Do I want to add 5 tasks or just one task? I want to add all 5. And now I have the 5 tasks. I do notice that a couple of these have due dates on them, so that might just be a setting that I have different between each system, you know, whether the system tries to automatically generate a date out of what I've typed in as the task. But otherwise, again, very similar. So I do want to go check out the calendar view in Todoist. Let's take a look at that. So I'm going to change this personal task list to a calendar view. And so I see I have a task repeating every day. Begin a daily gratitude journal. I also have plan a outing with friends or family to reconnect on Friday. It looks like if I click this icon over here, I can show my tasks without a date. And let's see if I can drag them onto my calendar here. Yes, I can. Although this part isn't necessarily that smooth, I can drag them onto the calendar, so that's nice. I can move back and forth between the months. So how does this compare over to TickTick? Well, this is most similar to our calendar view in TickTick. So if I click over here, in TickTick I get an option, since I'm in a smaller window, to look at just 2 weeks, but I can also look at the month here as well. Now our calendar view in TickTick is looking at our whole system, so it's not looking at just my personal list. It's looking at my personal list plus my inbox, plus if I had any other lists. But I think I can filter it to just my personal list if I come over here to the expand option. And instead of all, I come down here to just my personal list and check that. So right now I just have my personal list showing on the calendar, but we don't see any tasks because none of them had a date set on them automatically. But let's go over to the three dots and click the Arrange Tasks button. And so here I can see my personal lists. And if I didn't want to see all, again, I can come up here and filter to personal. And then I only see my personal tasks, and I can drag these as I see fit onto the calendar, which does work a little smoother in TickTick, I think, than in Todoist. But the calendar view in Todoist is beta right now, so it's brand new, and they're asking for beta feedback right now. So they're probably planning to improve this calendar view in Todoist as things go on. All right, let me go back to the personal list real quick. And let's also check out the Kanban view while we're here. So I'm going to switch this view over here to Kanban view in TickTick. And over here in Todoist, I'm going to select the board view. And again, this looks very similar. I can add a section in both. And I can move a task over here to my new section. So very similar. Not a lot of differences, really. So let's switch back to the list view on both. And let me just click on a task, and I just want to see the task view, the single task view, if I want to open up a task and see what my options are. So I'm going to click on Research and Enroll in a Local Class or Join a Gym. So a window pops up, which pretty much takes up the whole screen, so it's nice sized. I can add a description. Oh, I guess I got to click the Save button before I can go change anything else. I can add a due date, set the priority, add labels, add a reminder. I can add subtasks. And it looks like they also have description and all the same characteristics of a regular task. And I can also add comments on the task. And I can also add an attachment to this type of comment as well. Click the comment button. I can open up that PDF if I want to. Okay, so let's take a look at TickTick real quick. I'm going to click on the same task. It opens up on the right side. Again, going back to how Todoist generally looks better and feels better, I would say that this is also a case. Like having a full screen window or a big window that pops up taking up a big middle portion of the window is a lot better than this side task over here. And I like that Todoist presents all of my options right here. I mean, when I'm going to edit a task, chances are I'm going to, edit some of these things. So put those front and center. Whereas TickTick puts the description front and center, taking up most of the space. And some of the options are clear, like I can clearly set a due date. And I can clearly set a priority. But where do I set the tag at? And how do I input a subtask? I would have to know that I need to come down here to these three dots in the lower right corner in order to add a tag or add a subtask. And if I'm not familiar with TickTick, I might get easily confused with this checklist option up here as well. Is this a subtask? I'm not sure. Do I have two subtask sections? This is a bit confusing, and I think that TickTick should probably get rid of this checklist option. It's not good to keep both, especially when it's not clear on my task where I even create a subtask at. The comment section, although not as prominent as Todoist, is fairly easy to get to. I can't add an attachment to my comment. The comments in TickTick are strictly comments, but I can add an attachment, again, by going to this More menu. I would have to know that again, and click the Upload Attachment option. All right, so the last thing I really want to look at is how the tags and filters look in both systems. So you see, if I expand this navigation menu over here in Todoist, there's a filters and labels section. So I don't see any filters or labels over here in the navigation menu at all. It looks like I have to click into this filters and labels section. So let me go ahead and do that. And there's my label, due later. So I didn't see that on the navigation menu. So that is slightly different than TickTick. So if I come over here and I'm just gonna go back to the task screen. and expand my left navigation menu. So here in TickTick, I have a tag section, and if I expand it, I see both of my tags that I created right here on the navigation menu. But let's say that I do want to see this do later tag or label on my left navigation menu. So let's look at this more labels option. So it looks like we can add to favorites. And if I add to favorites, a new section shows up in the left navigation menu called favorites, and my tag is there. Now let's see if I can add some other things to favorites. Can I add a project to favorites? Looks like I can. And what about filters? Let me create a real basic filter here just so that I can see if I can add it to the favorite. Let's see, this isn't very user-friendly, right? It asks me for a query, and I have no idea how to put that in. I'm gonna try to type in personal. It does look like I can add it to favorites, so let's go ahead and add this. I'm really unsure about the query part. Filter query isn't quite right, it says. Our magical filter engine was unable to recognize personal and personal. So let's go take a look at some of these filter examples. Let's just try using our tag for now, since this is a basic query that we're trying to set up. Let's say we want to use that do later tag. And now it shows me a preview down here, so I can see it's probably going to work this time. So I'm going to go ahead and click the save button, and I do see the basic filter there. And if I expand my left navigation menu, I now see the basic filter under the favorites section as well. So I can add pretty much anything to my favorites section. Now TickTick has something similar, right, with pins. So you can pin stuff that is your favorite. So right now I can pin this personal list, and it goes up to the top. I could also pin a tag, and I could create a basic filter over here in TickTick. Now this is one area where TickTick looks much better in my opinion. I just couldn't understand my options over there in Todoist when I was creating a filter. But over here in TickTick it's pretty straightforward. I mean, so if I want to filter on list, I can just select the list. If I want to filter on tag, I can just select the tag. So this is much easier over here in TickTick. And let's save this basic filter, and then again I can pin this up to the top section, which is similar to the favorite section in Todoist. So that part is slightly different. The filters section is definitely different, I would say. And kind of expanding on that filters topic, you know, the other thing that TickTick has is the more advanced filtering option, which is slightly more complex, which is what you would expect, but I think it's still more straightforward than what I saw over here in Todoist. Let me go back into the filters here in Todoist, and I'm going to expand this. It doesn't, I guess you would have to go read the help to understand what you would want to write in your queries if you want to use and logic or logic or both or things like that. So there is a question mark up here in the upper right, and it looks like if I click this, I can find out more about filters. So I could click this and get an introduction to filters. I can watch a video, but from a user-friendly standpoint, I'm going to say that TickTick wins that category on the filters. All right, so did we answer the question of which one is better, TickTick or Todoist? You know, I think I agree with a lot of folks that Todoist does look better. I'll be honest, it does look better than TickTick. Does that make it a better app? Possibly. But when I look at both apps side by side, they're almost identical. It really is Coke better than Pepsi? Or is an iPhone better than Android? You know, at the end of the day, you have the same apps on both phones. They're very similar. They both get you to the internet. They both get you to Instagram. You can check your email on both. Same is true with TickTick and Todoist. You know, from the basic functionality. You have your lists, you have your tasks, you have your tags, your priorities, comments. It's all the same. There are some peripheral differences, like Todoist has AI. And TickTick has a lot of other functionalities that we didn't discuss today that Todoist doesn't have. Things like the Eisenhower matrix, the focus timer, habit tracker. But to be honest, I use TickTick as a task management app. So I would probably be fine with it if TickTick decided to take some of those features away and strictly just have the task management system. But we still haven't answered the question, which one is better? You know, I read online some time ago, someone asked the question, what's the best exercise to do? And I thought the best answer given to that question was, the best exercise to do is the exercise that you do. So if you like playing basketball, that's a great exercise for you. Or if you like running, that's a great exercise for you. And I think that's an appropriate answer to this question. The best task management app is the one that you use. And for the last several years, I've used TickTick. And I don't plan on changing just because Todoist may look a little nicer in some areas. I think there's something to be said for picking a tool and using it for years and really getting to know that tool and really having it become part of your workflow. And so that's what I've done with TickTick over the last several years. I've really tried to learn the tool and make it a part of my workflow. Now, I'm not saying I'll never switch from TickTick. If there was some compelling reason to switch to Todoist, like if I really wanted that AI functionality, well, then maybe I'd switch. But right now, there's not a compelling reason for me to switch, especially having seen how similar the apps are from their basic functionality. So my answer to the question, and you might have guessed it, the best app between TickTick and Todoist is TickTick because it's the app that I use. But let me know in the comments what you think. Well, that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.